Why that multidimensional thing, and that is quite worrying.
Senior policy analyst for the National Development Planning Commission, Kenneth Owusu, believes adopting a more targeted implementation mechanism can help the country tackle the emerging problem of child poverty.
The issue is to intensify some of the interventions that we have introduced and also improve our targeting mechanism. In most cases, the problem with our policy is not that the policy is not good, but how in the quest to implement we target the people who most affected is the issue. So we also make proposals to how to identify people that we need to target. Which region do we have to target intervention more as against having a blanket intervention?
The SDGs seek to ensure significant mobilization of resources from a variety of sources, including through enhanced development cooperation, in order to provide adequate and predictable means for developing countries, in particular to implement programs and policies to end poverty in all its dimensions.
Let's have a conversation with Dr. Felix Ado-Yobo, the coordinator of the SDGs Implementation Coordinating Committee, and he'll take us through aspects of the VNR, and then we'll narrow in on child poverty. Good evening, Dr. Ado-Yobo.
Good evening.
Thank you for making time tonight. But what else is in this VNR?
Right, the VNR essentially covers all the 17 goals of the SDGs. So if we start talking about it, we're not going to finish now. But some of the highlights that came up was the issue about child poverty, and also the multidimensional nature of poverty, not looking only at income poverty, but other dimensions of poverty. Other issues that came up, probably not surprisingly, has to do with sanitation. Water and sanitation issues came up as well as monetary issues in terms of tax revenues and other things, which are all part of the gamut of actions we need to improve on if we are to achieve the SDGs by 2030.
As I said, we'll narrow in on child poverty, but when you look at our performance towards implementing and achieving the SDGs within this period, comparatively to our efforts towards the MDGs, what would be your analysis? Have we got better, or we're deteriorating as a people? And this absolutely has nothing to do with the government.
Yeah, we've learned how to do things better,
right?
Based on lessons from the MDGs era. However, with development, it is such that as you get nearer and nearer your ultimate target, the rate of progress tends to be slower because a lot more effort needs to go into see a little change. So that is where we are, and that therefore means that we should be smarter in the way we go about implementation, and then also move away from working in silos and adopting a more collaborative approach, more partnerships, working together and building on synergies across sectors, because development issues are actually not independent of each other. They are very much related.
Very well. Now let's talk about child poverty, which the report indicates that we seem to see a surge in it. What could be contributing to this?
Right. Probably a bit of a correction. I won't say we are seeing a surge in child poverty. It's because now we've thrown the searchlight on child poverty and interrogated the various dimensions of child poverty, which is critical if we are to deal with the issues of child poverty. Yeah, so we looked at 8 dimensions of child poverty, basic things that a child needs, ranging from education and learning and development, nutrition, access to water, access to sanitation, housing, and among others. And we classified a child as being multidimensionally poor if the child is deprived in any 2 of these areas.
Right.
And then the studies show that about 73% of Ghanaian children suffer more than 2 deprivations in these areas, which is quite worrying.
It is. To think that 70% of our children could be described as multidimensionally poor.
Yeah. And the good thing is, if we had only looked at monetary poverty, which is what we've been doing previously, especially under MDGs, the figure is 28%. That are monetarily based on monetary income.
7 out of 10 children are poor.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think, is my child poor?
I hope not.
Because 7 out of 10 children, that's disturbing.
Yeah, that is disturbing. And typically there are also dimensions. Rural areas are the worst hit.
Which is where I want us to get to. So which are the communities or areas in the country where you find that you have more numbers coming from?
Yeah, so generally rural areas are more prone to, children in rural areas are more prone to poverty. And then also the 3 northern regions especially do have the highest incidence of child poverty.
I see. But
interestingly, there was no significant difference between the boy child and the girl child. The level of poverty among boys and girls was similar.
It's similar.
Yeah.
Now, so should that tell us something? The fact that there is no significant difference, is that supposed to tell us something?
Well, it does tell us something about the nature of the dimensions that we are looking at, that they tend to be, shall I say, blind to gender. That's why there's no significant difference between the boy and then the girl. However, in terms of economic opportunities and then resources for development and access to basic services, it varies from location to location, and rural areas are worst hit.
Worst hit. Now, we'll come back to the conversation and find out what we can be doing about this situation over the next few years to come. Stay with us.
And you're more than just a means of identification. We are patriotic there. It's going to open up a new world of secure transactions and benefits for all Ghanaians. As an electronic ID, the new Ghana card even allows you to travel within the ECOWAS sub-region without your regular passport.
To register, you have to provide your name, date and place of birth, your residential address, your digital address code, and the name of your parents or legal guardians. Note, you also need either a birth certificate or a valid Ghanaian passport. But if you don't have any of the required documents, don't worry. A relative or 2 members of your community who have registered and have their Ghana card can vouch for you under oath.
Your Ghana card will be the only acceptable ID for all transactions which require you to prove your identity. And beware, providing false information will lead to arrest and prosecution.
It's a new era of connectivity, access, and progress for all.
Memobia Nadao. Register for your Ghana card now. One nation, one Ghana card.
Teacher said food particles can make tiny holes in teeth when they are left over at night. So you have to remember to brush your teeth at night. But Daddy is always forgetting brushing. He will get cavities.
Pepsodent's Cavity Fighter, with the action of calcium and profluoride, helps prevent cavities during the day, and at night works twice as hard to repair tiny holes before becoming cavities. Pepsodent's Cavity Fighter, with double action for daily, day and night cavity protection.
Welcome back. This is still News Tonight on GH1 television, and we're back to our conversation around child poverty, which the VNR focus on. It tells us that the figures are so disturbing to me that I'm starting to lose my words, but 7 out of 10 children are poor, based on, in fact, multi-dimensionally poor, based on the, let me say, indices that were used to measure poverty. if it doesn't bother you, I don't know what else bothers you. So Dr. Felix Adoyobo is still here with me in the studio. He's coordinator for the SDG Implementation Coordinating Committee. And so what can we do at this point? We have 16 regions now.
Yeah.
What can be done to save ourselves, really?
Right. It starts with proper targeting. So what are the fundamental causes for these high figures that we have recorded? And then how best do we start addressing these issues? And it should be a sort of progressive approach rather than throwing all our resources at everything. We need to be very systematic and very targeted. And importantly for me, the dimensions of poverty we are looking at are very much interrelated.
Right.
So the child with poor access to food, poor nutrition, does not develop properly and affects his education, and then it goes on and on and on. So we need to work more in a collaborative approach. Various sectors need to speak to each other, and that is one thing that the SDGs is promoting. We need to have partnership among government agencies, between government and civil society, between government, civil society, and then private sector. We all need to put our hands to the plow, as they say, so that we can quickly and effectively solve this problem, making use of the scarce resources we have.
Doctor, unfortunately, we'll have to end our conversation here, although there's a lot to talk about. But thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I appreciate your time with us here this evening. Dr. Felix Adoyobo is coordinator of the SDGs Implementation Coordinating Committee, and we've been talking about child poverty in this country. Away from that, let's turn attention to the central region, where the Member of Parliament for Ebura Asebu Kwamankese constituency in that region, Elvis Morris Donko, has cut short for a 30-bed ward for the Mori Health Center. The health center, which serves over 3,000 persons in the area, has been without a ward since it was constructed in the 90s.
The absence of the ward over the years has forced hospital authorities to refer cases they could easily have handled to the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital and the Abro Dunkong Government Hospital at the discomfort of the patients, who then travel long distances for several hours to access those facilities. Aside the poor state of the road and poor lighting system leading to the facility, the health workers also complain about the deplorable state of the structure within which they operate. The facility also lacks equipment to work with. The Mori Township, a farming community, also records high numbers of malaria cases due to poor sanitation practices in the area. The Member of Parliament, Elvis Donko, disclosed that he has had talks with the Ministry of Health to upgrade the Mori Health Center to a polyclinic to serve the needs of the people. He expects that the 30-bed ward at a cost of 400,000 cedis being financed with support from the Premix Committee of the area will ameliorate the plight of the people. He also urged the community and other indigents of the town to support government in improving conditions at the facility.
Having this facility over here will actually help to take care of the patients right in their community. So this is a 30-bed facility that can cater for 30 people at a time. And I'm very much happy to see the money that actually was gotten from the sale of premix wasn't spent by the committee, but they put everything together, and I am supporting them to build this facility for the community.
Now, the Ghana Water Company Limited will begin spilling excess water from the Wager Dam as part of a routine measure to safeguard it. With the onset of the rains, the water level is expected to rise, and it won't get close to the level of 47 feet. Like every dam, its safe operating levels are maintained to prevent it from possible collapse. Now, their statement, which they shared with the press, reads: management of the GWCL therefore wishes to inform members of the general public as well as institutions or organizations who have properties downstream of the dam that the opening of the spillway gates may cause some flooding. As a result, we urge people living in communities downstream and have the buffer zone close to the river course to evacuate the area to forestall any eventualities in order to protect life and property. We hope that the people there listen. We wouldn't want to tell stories of how your homes were flooded while you were in it. But the statement goes on to say that the GWCL has begun a house-to-house sensitization, as well as using public address systems within the communities. Opinion leaders, chiefs, assemblymen, unit committee leaders, and heads of schools have been informed to help sensitize the people in the communities. GWCL is also liaising with national security to dredge the estuary to enable easy flow into the sea. Communities that are likely to be affected, and hopefully you listen carefully here: Tetegu, Oblogo, Pambro Salt, Lower McCarthy Hill, Lower Wager, Bojo Beach, Adakope, Chokome, and surrounding communities. Surrounding communities means it's not exhaustive. I wonder which community falls in the surrounding communities. But at least you know where your community is in comparison to these ones: Tetegu, Oblogo, Pambro Salt, Lower McCarthy Hill, Lower Wager, Bojo Beach, Adakope, Chokome, and surrounding communities. Property owners and residents in these areas are therefore advised accordingly. It's now time for business.
Business Brief is brought to you by Everywhere You Go, MTN. And Star Assurance, your solid partner.
After your home is burgled, who would you be? The Mr. Iradimewo? Or the Mr. Obinsomiwo? Or the Mr. I've got Star. Star Home Policy makes all the difference when burglary happens. Live. Let Star take care of it. Sign up to Star Comprehensive Homeowners Insurance today. Star Assurance, your solid partner.
In real life, there's no buffering. So why accept it from your internet connection? Get connected and experience ultra-fast internet to the home from MTN. MTN Home, powered by MTN Fiber Broadband from the Internet Masters.
We're there for you, everywhere you go.
It's time now for business news here on the program. Now, Cowbell has launched its 20th anniversary with a 3-day community support initiative. My colleague, Francisca Ahin, has more in the following report.
Promasidor Ghana Limited has become one of Ghana's fastest growing brands in the industrial sector. The company has, over the years, engaged in several community development and human capacity building. The company has lived up to its operational mantra, becoming a major producer of dairy.
I believe that it's been a pleasant journey. Not too many brands enjoy the kind of patronage and love from its community. Cowbell has enjoyed that, and to be here 20 years down the line, from 4 storekeeping units of products to 16 and counting. I mean, we can't but say that it's been a pleasant journey. And we continue to grow, especially lead in the area of innovation where we have a lot of extensions, flavored milk products. We can only be happy and grateful to Ghana for supporting us.
20 years ago, Promasidor launched a plain milk brand with only 4 stock-keeping units, with an avowed mission to make milk accessible and affordable to Ghanaians. Today, Cowbell Vitarich and all its extensions launched to date, driven by consumer insight and need, amounting to a total of 16 stock-keeping units. Overall, as a business, Promasidor today sells a total of over 54 stock-keeping units of products in 4 categories, namely dairy, food seasoning, cereals, and spreads.
I believe that Cowbell is a communal brand, and the essence of the brand talks about us caring about our community. As I earlier mentioned, there's nothing wrong with doing good and making money out of that. So Cowbell cares about this community, and therefore it is the essence of the brand to give back to the community that supports it in the area of sports, in the area of education, and other social activities and interventions that we have done.
As part of the 20th anniversary celebration, Cowbell will be embarking on 3 main community support initiatives, namely Cowbellpedia, borehole projects, and World Milk Day donation.
Cowbell is fully sponsoring the drilling of 20 boreholes for selected extremely deprived communities across the country. Going into the future, ladies and gentlemen, we will commemorate this year's World Milk Day by donating over 200,000 Cowbell milk sachets to selected pediatric units across the country.
Speaking at the launch of its 20th anniversary, which saw the likes of media personalities, partners, among others, Promasidor assured the public of the unwavering commitment to contribute towards the historic development of the community in which they operate. This, they say, will be done through the provision of quality food products and their contributions to community support initiatives.
Executive group members from Standard Bank in South Africa, one of the financial institutions that provides loans for the Ghana Cocoa Board, earlier Tuesday paid a visit to the institution and its Chief Executive Officer, Joseph Boahen Edu, to understand the regulatory duties of Cocoa Board. The customer centricity, according to the delegation, would help build trust and loyalty between both institutions.
The cocoa industry in Ghana plays an important role in the livelihoods of the citizens and the economy, most especially. Ghana is the second largest cocoa producing country in the world with 20% output, with Côte d'Ivoire being the first with 40%. Together, the two countries produce 3 million tons of cocoa annually. Economically, the crop generates about $2 billion in foreign exchange and is a major contributor to government's revenue and GDP. In spite of this, the industry is faced with a host of challenges for which financial support is needed. When prices of cocoa fall on the international market, it becomes a social responsibility of government to intervene and support cocoa farmers.
Government and Cocoa Board will have to look for money to be able to pay the farmers. Because the farmers will have to improve upon their productivity. They have to do fertilizer application. They have to spray the farms. The farmer will need income, when the cocoa is bought, the farmer will have to be paid for the beans. Early last year, 2018, the price of cocoa was around $1,800. And it became a major challenge to us as producing countries, because our farmers will have to survive and they will have to hold their breath to be able to hold a chain.
Annually, Ghana Cocoa Board goes in for cocoa syndicated loans. These loans are to help the cocoa industry regulator make upfront purchases for cocoa beans that it purchases from cocoa farmers. The Ghana Cocoa Board in the year 2018 completed a $1.3 billion syndicated loan agreement for cocoa beans purchases for the 2018-2019 crop season. And the Standard Bank was one of the financial institutions with which the agreement was made. On the back of this, to strengthen the relationship that they share and better understand the functions of Cocoa Board, Standard Bank has paid a visit to the institution and its leaders.
If we look at that primary, or one of the 3 primary growth strategies, around becoming more customer-centric, then what stood out in all the research was what's happening with the Cocoa Board in Ghana and our relationship to that board, to that opportunity, to that country. And so when people looked at customer centricity, they said, well, let's go and experience what does this mean? And how do we learn from what's happening? How do we get out of our South African situation and look at this much more continentally and even much more globally?
The cocoa sector accounts for about 70% of money circulated in Ghana and contributes to attaining Sustainable Development Goal 1 and 8, which highlight ending poverty and decent work and economic growth, respectively, by the year 2030.
That'll be all for business. Next year is E-Zone.
Business Brief is brought to you by Everywhere You Go, MTN. And Star Assurance, your solid partner.
Very proverbial of the new vintage inspired high life funk and Afrobeat Santrofi from Ghana. Well, Santrofi from Ghana will soon share stage with female rapper Cardi B, Skepta Chance, Chance the Rapper, and many others. They have been announced for two major festivals: the festival in Denmark on June 29, Wilmot Festival in the UK on June 25. Santrofi is scheduled to perform on July 3. And just before we take leave of you, a group of Trump supporters has begun building the first privately constructed U.S.-Mexico border wall after a crowdfunding campaign. U.S. military veteran Brian Colfage posted a picture of the steel fence going up in the state of New Mexico. He said it was being erected with more than $22 million in donations he raised through an online campaign last year. The fundraiser was launched as Congress refused President Donald Trump's funding for his signature campaign promise. Well, that'll be all for tonight. I'm definitely grateful that you stayed with me throughout the hour. I'll see you again at 9 p.m. on State of Affairs when we discuss events that unfolded in the Lower Manya Krobo district. We'll hear from the youth and we'll hear from authorities as well. Make a date then. My name is Keminni Amanor. If you missed the news, there's always a playback on Facebook and on YouTube.